feel like I'm living in a country song, yeah. Lost my job and my girlfriend is gone. What did I do? What the hell went wrong? 'Cause I feel like I'm living in a country song, yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, we are back, and as promised, on the phone, we have Harrison Cheung. He's Christian Bale's former publicist and author of his new book, Christian Bale, The Inside Story of the Darkest Batman. He's also a friend of mine. Please welcome Harrison Cheung. Harrison, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, Harrison. How do you like that music they played for you, that intro?
We played that just for you guys.
I love it. Am I Batman or Robin in that?
Whichever one makes you happy, hon. Whichever one floats your boat, tickles your
Actually, I was Alfred, so.
That's right, and I got that picture. I actually downloaded it. I thought it was fantastic. I think even Anthony got a kick out of it. I think we posted it on the website for a while. It was fantastic. I love that. You gave it a lot of thought. I mean, I'm looking at it going, this guy didn't get a tux and say, I'm going to be Alfred. He really gave it some thought. So kudos to you. I was impressed.
Harrison, look, the first thing I've got to ask you is, were you Christian's publicist even after this book came out?
No, I was Christian's publicist before. So, I worked for him for about 10 years, pretty much throughout the 1990s until about 2003.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So so this was right before he hit it big with Batman.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is, my years with him were when he first moved out to Los Angeles and was a struggling young actor. Trying to land parts.
Right, because if I read in the book, it was really difficult because British people couldn't get jobs as American actors, or at least something to that effect.
Well, yeah, I mean, in general, it's tough to make it in Hollywood, but even tougher for British actors if they don't look American, if they don't sound American.
Right.
It's the accent, it's the build, it's the physicality. And, Christian was finding it really, really hard to get work in L.A. until he landed American Psycho. And, you read the book. It was a real battle to get American Psycho.
Yes. They were actually, I guess, everybody in his life was saying, don't do it. It was career suicide, including his father, I believe. And he wanted the role, and it was like he was getting passed up on it. And everybody was telling him not to take it. It's career suicide. And I could tell he was at the point where he was like, what's he got to lose, really? I mean, his career wasn't really doing all that well, and it was something he really wanted to do. And everybody was against him on it, and it ended up being one of the iconic films that he's remembered for.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a fantastic movie.
That film, American Psycho, was originally offered to Leonardo DiCaprio.
Exactly.
And I think what happens in Hollywood is that a lot of agents, they worry about their clients' likability. So if you end up playing a big villain, they're afraid of getting stereotyped or pigeonholed in a certain role. So, yeah, Christian's agent at the time was like, no way, don't do American Psycho. It's such a gruesome book and a gruesome script.
It's a career
You don't
killer.
want to be like that.
You're going to get typecast, and it's a career killer. You're going to only be seen as a villain, a really dark villain like that. I mean, because when you talk about Batman movies and stuff, that's more of a fun villain. I mean, it's somebody that goes through a transformation, become a villain, and they always have one-liners. This isn't something like this is a total 180 from that. This is, if you haven't seen American Psycho, it's about a serial killer. And he's the serial killer, and he's basically leading a life of a businessman, but he's a serial killer at night. And it's really morbid, but it is a really good film. And he was actually
besides that, Batman is something that we've all grown up with. We've become accustomed to, so we're okay with him being bad.
Oh yeah, but
and Batman is one of those characters where you can either call him an anti-hero, a dark hero.
Yes.
It's definitely not like playing a villain.
Well, I mean, now, if you look at it now in cinema right now, I mean, Christian Bale, I think he actually opened the doors for a lot of actors. You have British actors playing Spider-Man now. The new one is I don't have the name, but he's going to be the Man of Steel in next year's The Man of Steel Superman movie.
Henry Cavill, yeah.
Yes.
Henry Cavill actually was up for the part of Batman.
That's right,
He
in
didn't get it.
reverse. Was in the reverse, and Christian was going to be up for Superman, I believe.
No. Christian was looking at one. There were a couple of different Batman scripts, and one of them,
Right.
was sort of a Batman versus Superman project that never took off.
Yes, I heard that
But-
they were actually going with that for a while, and then they decided they nixed it at the
Yeah.
last minute.
And I heard you guys talk about The Walking Dead. I mean, the star of The Walking Dead, Andrew Lincoln, he's British.
Yes, because I've seen him talk off camera, and he's got a thick British accent.
Yeah.
And like I said, even the guy who's playing Spider-Man now, he's British. God, I can't think of their names right now because I'm so focused.
Andrew Garfield.
Garfield, yes.
Garfield.
Because he was even in the Social Network, and
Yes.
he has the American accent on to a T. A lot of the superhero roles are going to British actors now, whereas in 10 years ago it was unheard of. So it's really weird how Hollywood changes when one opens a door like that.
I think I think Hollywood has always been open, but you really have to prove your ability.
Yes.
Because if you go all the way back to, look at Gone with the Wind, right? Vivian Leigh, British, right?
Right.
So British actors have always been around, but if they didn't have the physicality, they would end up playing, the Roman general. They would end up playing a wizard or something. Because I think casting agents love British accents. They just think it's so stentorian, and it's great for drama. But when a British actor has to play an American character, then it just opens up a whole new can of worms.
Yeah, I can totally see that. But Christian pulled it off well. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I really, other than American Psycho and Newsies, which he's not happy with at all.
No.
I never heard of him, and I never really saw Newsies. And American Psycho was pretty much my blueprint of Christian Bale, and I watched that. So I was under the impression he was American. So when I heard his first interview after seeing Batman, I was floored when I heard the accent. It totally
the first
floored
time I
me.
knew he was British as
It
well.
blew me
when
away.
He did the interview.
Yeah, after watching Batman Begins, he had an interview on a television, one of those television interview shows, entertainment shows, and I was like, he's got that British accent. What is with that? Totally, I did not see it coming. Never saw it coming. So he obviously did
Harrison.
something right. Yeah, totally.
What prompted you to write this book?
Well, after working for the guy for 10 years, I thought that was like a great period of time to chronicle his career. Number one, Christian was a former child actor, and that's a big story in itself. It's very, very hard for a child actor to make it in Hollywood, and we've seen so many tragedies in the last couple of years. Actors like Corey Haim, like Brad Renfro. There are a lot of child actors. They can't make it, and they end up, tragically, either they OD, their careers, doesn't advance. The other part of the book is about internet marketing in Hollywood. And that was something that we pioneered because no one was doing what we were doing in Hollywood.
That's right.
We were building websites for his independent films. We were building up the fan base and connecting all the Bale heads together. That's what the fans called themselves, Bale heads.
Yes.
And no one had done that before.
Yeah,
so
you were one
we
of the
could go
pioneers.
to a producer, we could go to editors, magazine writers, and say, Christian Bale is the biggest star of the internet. If you've never heard of him, you better take notice of him now because, he's got a huge fan base. And no one had gone that route, that sort of like grassroots campaign.
Yeah.
And the third piece of it is, as everyone knows, Christian's got a temper. And, I think the book sort of explains what happened to him growing up and, with his unusual family dynamics and the pressure put on him at such an early age. It sort of explains how,
How
he's
the
become a
darkness came
very,
about?
reclusive person.
Yeah, because I was telling Sherry earlier in the show that Appendix A in the back of the book is the entire the entire transcript of Christian Bale's rant on the set of Terminator Salvation, word for word. I've never seen the F-bomb used so many times. Is the F key still working on your computer? I mean, wow. It's 3 pages, 2.5, almost 2.5 pages of ranting over. Yeah.
You can go to YouTube and look up Christian Bale rant, and there are lots of recordings of the rant.
I actually went on YouTube and they actually incorporated it into a Newsies segment. So they were using his rant with Newsies. They were using the 2 things he didn't want to remember in his career, and they were making it one thing. And it was funny. I will say it was funny. But I read the book that he didn't like. He leaves Newsies off his resume, and I'm like, even though it wasn't a big hit when it came out, it's got a huge cult following. I would think that he would welcome that. But
see, here's the thing about Newsies, and obviously it's a very important part of Christian's career. I devoted an entire chapter to it in the book. Newsies got him to America. Newsies got him his fan base, because it was because of Newsies that Christian connected with his new audience. Because before Newsies, every little British film he had done, no one had seen in America.
Exactly.
And, so Newsies was very pivotal. And Newsies was also sort of the power behind the Internet campaigns, because I could take Newsies. It ended up becoming a hit on video.
Yes.
And then people would write into his website and say, wow, we really like him in Newsies. What else has he been in? So it offered the conversation starting point to say, hey, if you like him here, check out Swing Kids, check out, Little Women, check out all these other films. Because otherwise the studios, they were not focusing on him. And, it was that type of grassroots marketing that got him noticed on the Internet. And it's all because of Newsies. So Christian doesn't like Newsies. He thinks it's embarrassing. He never wanted to do another musical.
Right.
And there are tons of reasons. And like I say in the book, I think a part of it, too, was perhaps it was a sense of betrayal, because he always felt that he was tricked into doing Newsies because his dad said, Robert De Niro got his start in musicals.
Right. But, a lot of people will say he's the kid from Empire of the Sun, the Steven Spielberg film. But at that time, he was just the British kid that was in that movie. He really wasn't a name. Because I remember reading the book, his father thought he's in a Spielberg movie. He's a star. And it's like, well, no, he got one film, but he's not. But he's not a name yet. And I loved reading the chapter where you initially met them, where the father came down, and I just loved that whole chapter. That was amazing. Maybe you could touch base a little bit about that, because that was it was pretty funny.
Yeah, well, it was amazing. I mean, I guess that's the other catalyst for the book, is that a lot of people have asked me, how did you meet Christian Bale? So in that chapter about meeting him, how I ended up is because Empire of the Sun was a bomb. It's one of Spielberg's few bombs.
Right.
But I decided to write Spielberg a fan letter, and eventually his office, sent me back a letter and said it would be really nice if you dropped a letter to the star of the movie, who was very depressed that the movie bombed. I started writing Christian letters, and we became pen pals. And then the next thing I knew, his dad called me up and said, hey, we're moving to L.A. Come on down and meet us. So, I flew down to L.A. I was living in Toronto at the time and met Christian. And, as I described in the book, I mean, it was just a very unusual experience, because that was my first trip to Hollywood.
Right.
So I had all the usual, assumptions like, movie stars live in big mansions, and they've got servants, and they've got, chauffeurs. And instead, as I described in the book, his little house and the dogs, and it was essentially
dishes in the sink.
Kid being raised by a single dad.
Yeah, it was dishes in the sink, a kept house. You were, and the way I was reading it, I'm thinking, oh my God, if it was me, I would have been thinking Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Running for the Hills. That's the first thing I thought was, oh my God, there's dishes in the sink. It's not kept. All I kept thinking was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre when the girl walks in the house and then the door opens up and he comes running out and gets her. And I'm like, that's exactly what I thought. I go, run, run, Harrison, run. Run for the hills, Harrison.
Harrison, are you and Christian still, y'all are still friends?
Well, we parted ways. We had our own plans that didn't mesh anymore. I'm still friends with his family.
Okay.
So, we sort of keep in touch indirectly. But, as I mentioned in the book, we were planning to put together a production company. And when that didn't pan out, I had invested 10 years in his career. So I moved on. I ended up working for other actors. I worked with Ryan Gosling, with Jake Gyllenhaal, and, same sort of internet marketing campaigns for their films and their projects. So.
Well, if you want to add Ashley Bottoms to that list, be my guest.
All right.
Lord knows I could use the help. I want to know how...
and if Ryan Gosling needs a gopher, you can call me.
There you go. I have to know, has Christian conveyed how he feels about this book to you or anyone?
That's the funny thing. People have asked because I had an LA, I'm trying to remember when we last spoke, whether it was before or after my LA book tour. I kicked off a second leg of the book tour at Comic-Con.
Okay.
And got, great press coverage at Comic-Con and then moved on to Los Angeles. And would you believe it? The week I was in LA was, we did the Dark Knight Rises premiere at the ArcLight Cinema, and then there was the shooting that night. So, the Thursday night was the Colorado shooting. Friday I had a book signing, and it was packed. I mean, we had press, we had all these people asking about, what do you think about the shooting? What do you think Christian thinks about the shooting? And what and so they were asking all these questions. And to be honest, Christian doesn't have a bad thing to say about the book at all. And I got this wonderful letter from his mom saying, she loved the book and that it was very diplomatic and fair. So, I'm pleased that the family hasn't been,
glad.
Upset by anything.
I'm thinking somewhere in the dark recess of his mind, he's got this book about you with his own appendix in the back or something. I don't know. Because I'm not saying it's a bad book. It's really not unflattering, but it's not all flattering. I mean, it's a very honest book. You're not.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. I actually enjoyed it. I was reading it every day. At least, a half an hour a day, every day. I'm like, I couldn't put the damn thing down. I'm like, damn you, Harrison. But it was a very good reading. It wasn't just a Batman.
Tell us how we can get the book and what the title is, Harrison.
Well, the book is called Christian Bale, The Inside Story of the Darkest Batman. And it should be available in bookstores near you. Yeah. You can also, check it out online. It's at Barnes & Noble. It's on Amazon.
Of course.
You can go to the website and check out all the awesome reviews at bale-biography.com.
I have my autographed copy right here, so. And it was a very good book. I did appreciate how you didn't fall into the kiss up biz of it. You were really honest about things. Like if something was bad, you didn't candy coat it for reading purposes. And I really appreciate
the funny thing about a biography, and this came up a couple of times. People were like, "Oh, what does Christian think? And is it an official biography or not?" And look at all the criticism that came out a couple of weeks ago over Arnold Schwarzenegger's biography.
Right.
When you have an official biography, that means that the celebrity, handpicks a writer, censors what the writer can write about, limits who the writer can talk to. So the end product is a book that is very, very biased, right? It's not at all a true biography.
Exactly.
And my book, because I didn't have those type of limitations, and I worked with a wonderful entertainment journalist, we applied all the proper journalistic ethics to make sure that we did our research. It was fair. It's funny because I know the Bale heads are very, very loyal to Christian, and you've got, 90% of the fans that have been posting on the Facebook page and on Twitter. They're all like, wow, we got to read the book and we love the book. But you've got some other fans that are like, oh, if it's not official, then
Right.
we don't want to read the book.
Exactly.
I would argue the point that if you want to read a good biography, you want to read it from an unofficial source, so
Right.
that it is not censored. And
Right.
the proof is in the publishing, right? I mean, obviously, if there was any
Absolutely.
lies or factual errors, my publisher would have heard about it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And is it doing
Well,
well?
I
It's
can't wait
been
to
out.
get a copy of it. That's going to be great.
It's been out for a few months. How's the sales?
Awesome. The book has
Great.
been in the Amazon top-selling biographies for the last 3 months.
Excellent.
And wonderful people like you, keeping
Thank
in the
you.
news. I mean, I've been doing probably a radio interview once a week,
Well,
steady.
I'm glad we could help.
And then end of October, I'm going to be at the Texas Book Festival on October 27th doing another signing.
Are you?
So I'm delighted. I think you had mentioned, we've now got the Dark Knight Rises coming out on DVD in a couple of weeks, and I think that also adds to the interest.
Absolutely. And will you be touring, doing the book tour towards Boston anytime soon?
I don't know yet.
I hope so, 'cause
My publisher doesn't pay my travel, so it
Well-
depends on.
You got to let me know if you're going to come to this area so we can have a drink and hang out and talk Batman. Definitely.
Awesome, definitely,
Absolutely. 'Cause-
and talk Walking Dead.
and talk The Walking Dead. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
We'll be here for another hour. Did you like the premiere last night?
Oh, I did. It was so gory, but I love horror movies, so I always just get scared,
But just like,
sleepless.
I was telling Sherry, isn't it? It's character driven, right? It's about the characters.
It's character driven. It's wonderful dialogue. It's wonderful character studies, and I think the best thing about that series, it takes ordinary people and to say, what would you do? I mean, there's
Yes.
some people we talk to that are survivalists, and what would you do if you were stuck at the end of the world
Exactly.
and you're
It
surrounded
thrusts them
by
into a
predators?
situation. Yeah,
I mean, wasn't
Totally
that
not what I perceived at all. So I'm going to have to watch it now.
Yeah,
I've
'cause everybody
actually
thinks it's
already
gore.
talked me into it. So.
everybody says gore and guts, and there are episodes where maybe 45 minutes goes by, you don't see a zombie, and there might be just one zombie kill. I mean, it's like you said, you're taking ordinary people from ordinary lives and thrusting them into something like a zombie apocalypse and saying, how would they react? And that's exactly what it does. And that's why it works, because on so many levels, we can actually relate to it. And that's why it makes the story, this character so strong. But
Yes.
We
Well,
have
you
to-
think about it, last season, their son, the little boy, I mean, they were very protective of the little boy, and then by the
Yes.
end, the boy's asking for a gun, and then last night they start off with the boy opening
Yeah,
fire,
he's
and
taking
I was
point.
just horrified.
he
Yeah.
took point. I mean, there you go.
Wow.
Well, we gotta cut short because we're actually running out of time. But Harrison,
Oh,
I'll keep
sorry.
in touch with you. I'll keep in touch with you. I just don't want. I just don't want to go over it because I don't want to run up Anthony or run up a bill here. No, but
Harrison, thank you so much.
Harri-
Everybody go
Oh.
buy his book, The
Go buy
Inside
his book.
Story of the Darkest Batman.
it is. It's a
Thank you.
fantastic book. Harrison
Thank-
Cheung. Yes, thank you so much. We'll keep in touch.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank
Good
Thank
night.
you. Have a great night.
Good night.
Wow. What? Can you believe an hour's already gone by? When you start talking Batman and Walking Dead, there goes the time.
I
Wow.
enjoyed that. I really did. That was great.
I talked to him off of the show, and he's a fantastic person. I do. You got to check his book out. It's a really good read. Even if you're not a Batman fan, just his writing style, everything about